Hello Internet, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gina, otherwise known as Ginger Dash, and this is my third motovlog. I thought I would tell you a little bit about what my first month or two was like as a brand new rider in the spring of 2020. Since this is my third motovlog ever, you haven't had a lot of opportunities to get to know me yet, and maybe this is your first video, maybe you've been here for all three, that massive number 3. Either way, I will tell you very quickly that I was a brand new rider with zero experience in the spring of 2020 when I decided to buy a motorcycle without actually knowing how to ride one for my 50th birthday. In my last video, I talked about my MSF Motorcycle Foundation safety class that I took the 2 days following the day I bought my motorcycle. And if you haven't already figured out, that means the first time I ever started a motorcycle, the first time I ever popped one into gear or twisted the throttle was at my MSF course. But that aside, 6 days after I purchased my motorcycle, I was finally legal and I took my first ride on the road. And by the road, I mean the little streets in my neighborhood or in the very general vicinity of my neighborhood, because I was just completely thrilled to get on my motorcycle and finally take it out of the driveway. But I was also kind of terrified. Okay, granted, terrified may be a little bit of an overstatement of my feelings, but it was one of those situations where I was super excited to actually get out and experience the road on my own bike, but I was also super nervous. And for me, even though I didn't have any sort of, physical manifestations so much of my nerves, or I didn't think I did, I took it super slow. I stayed on streets where 25 miles per hour was the speed limit, and I was ridiculously careful about braking, and I don't think I got out of 4th or 5th gear, maybe, on that first ride. And I didn't ride for very long. I had a friend come over and ride with me, which was great because I didn't feel so alone as I went out and experienced the actual road for the first time. But when I got back from the ride, I was like super exhilarated. But I had also realized about halfway through my ride that my right leg was just like shaking. And it wasn't the kind of shake that I could control. And so for me, that was the physical manifestation of my internalized anxiety. But I had purchased a brand new bike, and while it was not a very expensive bike, for me, it was definitely a luxury purchase. It was money that I could have saved for something else, and it was a big deal for me to buy a motorcycle. And like I said, even though it was inexpensive, I was scared of dropping it. Not because I was afraid of getting hurt, but because I didn't want to bust up my motorcycle and then have to repair it. I couldn't really afford to do that. So there was that part of, the fear and the anxiety of just, oh God, am I going to be able to handle this with traffic? And that's why I spent the first month, 6 weeks really, on roads with pretty much zero traffic. Because traffic made me nervous. Now here's something everybody knows when they buy a motorcycle, and that is that it is a risk versus reward scenario. Riding a motorcycle simply is not as safe as riding around in a car. You are enclosed in a cage, as people call them, if you are riding in a car. You have none of those safety features if you're riding on 2 wheels. I say that not because every moment on a motorcycle is necessarily death-defying, but it is definitely not as safe as being in a car. Man, it is nice today. It's like 80 degrees. I know, those of you up north are hating the fact that we're having an 80-degree day in Florida. But it was like 45 last week during the day. Anyway, I was nervous about riding because I didn't want to dump my bike, and traffic made me nervous, not because I didn't think I could handle being in traffic so much as I was overly concerned about people not seeing me, because as you all know, or if you don't, here you go, motorcycles are practically invisible to people driving cars. If they're not paying attention, we're just so very small. And people are less aware now on the road than they ever have been. So that was my deal with traffic. I wanted to avoid roads with traffic. And unbeknownst to me, 6 weeks after I bought my motorcycle, Florida would enter a stay-at-home situation due to the pandemic, which made things a little easier for me because I could actually leave my house in the evenings when it was still quite light outside and practice on roads that I might not necessarily have ventured onto because they were deserted. Nobody was out. So how long did it take me to stop being nervous when I got on the motorcycle? For me, I would say it was about 6 weeks. Every time I got on the motorcycle, I would have to talk myself up. I would have to, gear myself up, not physically, but like mentally, to get on the bike, to get out there, to learn, to get better. And every time I got on the bike, that right leg of mine would shake. I'm just glad it wasn't my left leg. It would have made shifting gears a little challenging, I think. But regardless, I did finally develop a level of comfort. I wouldn't necessarily say proficiency, because while I was improving, my riding was getting better. I was feeling more comfortable and confident on the motorcycle. I certainly had things I needed to work on. And eventually, after those first 6 weeks to 2 months, I would venture a little further out with my rides, like a week at a time. It wasn't like I made a list or a schedule, but I would say, okay, I want to go a little farther today. I want to go on a road I haven't been on before. Oh! A few things I will tell you about my early riding experiences. I do not like riding in the rain. I've only done it maybe twice at this point. And I nearly dumped my bike, I think, the second time. So Gina doesn't like that so much. Now, in an effort to be completely transparent, I will say that while I've never actually dumped my bike exactly, it did fall over one time in my yard. The ground here in Florida is super soft because it's very sandy. I mean, it's more sand than dirt. And I was in the yard waiting to leave, I think, on a ride with my friend. This was within like the first 2 weeks, I think. And as I was sitting there, I didn't have it on the kickstand. I'm sitting there and I think we were talking, and I guess it just leaned a little bit too much to the right. And by the time I realized that my body had kind of let it go, it's a 400-pound bike, practically 400 pounds. And so I chose to just let it go rather than strain muscles trying to keep it upright. I ended up on the ground laughing. So my friend's like, "Are you okay? We don't have to ride if you don't want to. Shake it off." And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I wasn't bothered. If I had been on the road in motion and I had screwed up and somehow scraped up my bike or scraped up myself, but this was just one of those stupid people tricks. I was not aware enough of the bike, and that's only because it was new. I wasn't hurt. The bike wasn't hurt. In the end, it was kind of funny, and it taught me a lesson. Ooh. As a way to kind of tie all of this together and to bring it back to the title of this video, The answer is yes. It is absolutely possible to be both excited and nervous or anxious about learning to ride a motorcycle. And if you feel that way for a week, if you feel that way for a month, if you feel that way for 6 months, no matter how long it is, but as long as you want to ride and as long as you push yourself to get on that bike again and again, as long as you're safe and as long as you are enjoying it, not to put too fine a point on it, but if you are enjoying being on a motorcycle, even if it makes you somewhat anxious, don't give it up. Don't stop. I hope my experience as a new rider may possibly encourage you and help you to accept and understand that it is completely normal to be both nervous and excited as a new rider. Thank you for sticking around this long. I hope you'll consider subscribing, liking this video, and perhaps leaving me a comment. I will do my best to respond to them all. Until next time, I'm Gina, otherwise known as Ginger Dash. Find me on Instagram as well. See you next week.